All right, guys. We're going to start our first lesson. I'm going to be making a YouTube series teaching people how to play. But this is going to be the first video for that. So for you guys that are watching, first of all, for the YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. Please do that. It's so hard to build this channel. It really helps me out a lot. For those of you guys in Twitch chat, you can find the YouTube link below. So I'm going to do a step-by-step process for teaching you guys how to improve. I am a high B, low A rank player on the Korean server. First of all, if you're going to learn Starcraft, it's never too late. The game's been out for 23 years. People are still playing. It's still active. So there's no reason to think it's too late. I know a lot of people will do this and be like, oh, I wish I picked it up, but, you know, maybe the time has passed. Totally not the case. So this is going to be a Protoss-centered guide. And we're going to start right at the beginning here. Since StarCraft is the most mechanical RTS game, we want to make sure that our hotkeys are down. And these hotkeys that I've got here, pros have seen them. They stand by them. I'm very happy with this setup. If you're an old StarCraft player and you're used to the old hotkeys, I would highly recommend you change your hotkey setup. There's no reason to not do this. I hear this a lot when I teach people. People claim they can't learn a new setup. It's just not true. You're convincing yourself that this is harder than it is. We can go over how to retrain your brain for hotkey. So we're going to go down each hotkey list. If you guys have any questions, let me know. But there's a couple ideas we want to go for here and why we're doing what we're doing. We want to be as efficient as possible. The original StarCraft hotkeys were actually they were alphabetized. Nobody knew that StarCraft was going to be played this fast. Okay? So M is for Marine. That doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense on a keyboard that you're using one hand on, but that's where it is. Probe is P, Scourge is S. Okay, so if you look at your keyboard, the layout's all over the place, right? And so what we want to do is get something that is going to let us be as efficient as possible mechanically. Couple things to note. You can rebind the letter keys to anything. You cannot change the number keys. So for instance, in StarCraft 2, I used to have my gateways as the tab key. You can't have that in StarCraft 1, which is fine. We can build a system for Protoss that is going to be very efficient and allow you to be able to macro and get ahead right away. So first, big picture here. Take a look at your keyboard. I want you to think of it more like a gamepad. Your keyboard's gonna take some abuse in StarCraft. And this is like the most sophisticated gaming pad ever made, basically. So, your 1 through 3 keys to start are gonna be your army, okay? Your 4 through 7 to 8, depending on the game, are gonna be your buildings. And 0, 9, and 8 are going to be your Nexus. And I know this seems weird. A lot of people, especially StarCraft 2 players, but even some players that did not play Protoss or Terran, are very uncomfortable using the 8-9-0 hotkeys. You should absolutely take advantage of that. And the fact that the P key is right there makes macroing probes very easy. You'd put your middle finger on 0 and your index finger on P. That's right. So you can actually practice this. Here, let me go on BattleNet. You can actually practice this stuff even when you're not. So watch. 0P, 9P, 8P, right? That's probes. If I want to do Dragoons, let's say I'm in a PvT. Now you want your, what is this? The ring finger on D, or 4, excuse me, ring finger on 4. Pinky on D, 5D. Middle finger on 5. Index finger on 6. 6D, 7D. So watch. 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D, 8D. I just made 4 Dragoons in a second. You can also do it with Zealots. 4Z, 5Z, 6Z, 7Z. Now, this stuff is most important in the early game because eventually, obviously, you're going to run out of buildings to hotkey. And that's when the game gets chaotic. But what is important about a good hotkey setup is it's going to get you into a position in the game where you're going to be strong. So, like, most of you guys already know this sequence, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, or 5A, 6A, you know, depending on how many keys you have. You can use that pattern on your keyboard for macroing with Protoss. You can also do it with Terran if you bind the keys accordingly. You don't always have to use those keys to macro, but if you're in a fight or you're watching something, if you're able to just, for instance, go like this, spam out 4 Dragoons while you're in a fight, you don't have to go back home and click on everything manually. This is very good to do. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind. A lot of players, even StarCraft 2 pros that I've helped learn StarCraft 1, really don't want to do the 0P, 9P, 8P. You should do it. And once you start to do it and you get strong with it, you're going to fucking crush people. And this is great because that way you have moments where you're in fights, and especially the early game fights, you know, the unit, it's very important. If you can lose an entire StarCraft game in a second if you're not watching. So, I would recommend you guys just go into... Well, we're going to show the hotkey setup next year, but I just want to get you guys on the page where you realize what the rationale is. Yeah, that's a good question. Guys, feel free to ask any questions here, too. Teach is asking, can you use those apps that show your keystrokes on screen? You can do that. It feels weird, but go into single player after this lesson's done. Type in the codes. Just get infinite money. You know, make 4 gateways, and then practice that sequence. Again, the pinky is going to be, just like you use your pinky for A, pinky is going to be on D or Z for Dragoon. Now, I got pretty big hands, so you might need to adjust this based on your hand size. And just get in the habit of doing this, especially the 0P, 9P. You guys are going to love that once you get the hang of it, especially in a PvT. Let's say you took 3 bases right away. 0P, 8P, 9P are all very important. One other thing before we go into the detailed hotkeys here. And again, if this is just our first lesson, but I really strongly encourage you guys to listen to this whole thing, because if you get pretty strong with a bad hotkey setup, it's actually a headache to try to change. So, the other thing is you can bind screens. Here, I'll actually show you guys in a custom here real quick. So, let's load up Fighting Spirit Ladder. And a lot of the stuff I'm going to be showing you guys, there are foreigners who came to Korea to play StarCraft who have played their entire life and did not know. But Koreans teams required certain stuff like this. So here you go. And I'll give you an example. Noni did not know about this trick I'm about to show you guys. And Noni's a great player. All right, so let's just make a bunch of probes. So let's take a situation like PvP. This works for all races and all matchups, okay? So let's just get a situation here where we have workers mining. Okay, so I'm just giving us a situation where it looks like a normal game as far as resources go. So let me ask chat here. What is one of the things when you have 2 bases that you have to worry about in PvP? Can anybody guess? As far as harass goes. Drops. Protoss, that's also true, but drops. Reavers, right. Storm drops, Reavers. In PvP, you can lose a game because a Scarab blows up 8 probes, right? So, I'm going to show you guys a trick. First of all, the F2 key is always bound to this screen. You don't have to bind it yourself. It always, anytime you hit F2, it pulls you back here. Right? Shift F3. Let's make this shift F3. F2, F3, F2, F3, F2, F3, F2, F3. We could even have our third base as F4, right? But we're not. Let's just stay with this idea for now, right? So one of the problems is, like, a Reaver comes in here, you have more than 12 probes in your worker line. Let me make more than 12 probes here just to illustrate this. Because you can only grab 12 units at a time. So we're in an intense PvP right now. And we see a shuttle coming in here, right? Yep, no F5. Oh, God. Whoa. All right. Yeah, F5 makes the old graphics. Okay, so if I'm getting dropped, no matter what I do, I can't grab more than 12 of these, right? So watch. Let's say the drop's coming. Boom. Boom. We pulled all the probes out. We did it in a second. Let's say they drop my main. Boom. Whoops, hold on a second. Let me try again. They drop my main. Bam. Bam. Everything's out. You have to train yourself to be fast enough that you can react that quickly. It's so quick, right? Yeah, you basically don't... Yeah, it's Shift F2. You can't... You Shift F2, Shift F3, Shift F4. There is no F5, F6, F7 in this. So that is huge. Like, if... And I would recommend you kind of do drills where you train yourself to do this when you're not in a game. Here's another example of using the F keys. And then we're going to go into my hotkey layout, but I just want to show you guys real quick. Let's get a... Okay. So, boom. So we're going to have a bunch of gateways here. Let's just use these 4 gateways for now. So control 4, 5, 6, 7, right? You can even go like that to just confirm that you have them. A good way to use APM, right? So watch this. 4 right click, 5 right click, 6 right click, 7 right click. For the early game, right? When you only have 4 gates, we can reset rallies like that. I just reset all my rallies again. So if you get good at cycling the hotkeys while right clicking. And guys, this might seem boring, like it's not a strategy, and this is how you fucking crush people, okay? You got to have the mechanics down. So watch this. I'm not looking at the gates. 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D. I've just made 4 Dragoons. Do it again. 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D. Let's re-rally him over here. Oh, fuck, any pylons. Hold on. So watch, I had him rally here. Let's re-rally him here. So we just made 4 Dragoons. I didn't even look at it. And watch. Oh, food for thought's a supply cheat. Thank you. So do you guys see how that's really strong? I'm going to show you one last trick, right? Let's say that we had our wall in here. We had all of our units rallied here, and it's getting too congested. We want to rally them out here. We've got all of our gates here. Let's say we've got 8 gates, like we get in PVZ. Here, let me make one more pylon. I don't have any room here. So, you get into the late macro game. Watch this. F3, F4. So watch. There's all this shit going on. It's really hard to reset all your stuff. You use those keys. Watch. Boom. Whoops. So you go back and forth like this. And I'm just using the F3, F4. You can use F2 if you wanted to, but I tend to use F3 and F4. Because there's going to be a point in time and eventually you're not as focused on using the F2, F3. I guess in theory, if you have maybe 2 bases and you're in the end game, you could use the F2, F3 that way too. That's possible. But these are techniques that you may never learn on your own, but Koreans figured out. Also, just one thing, it's okay to overlap the gateway hotkeys in the late game. It's more important to have your army in hotkeys. So some people know this, other people don't. I see some of you guys know this, some of you other guys, your minds are blown. How do you keep getting to a certain rank and you can't get any higher? How do you recommend dealing with stress and feeling that you're not learning and can't seem to get any better? We'll do another lesson on that. But let me just focus on the mechanics to get you guys set up. Again, guys, if you're watching the YouTube video, please subscribe, alert bell, all that YouTuber shit. So we're going to go to Protoss. Nexus, we don't change anything. P is going to be for probe, okay? And as we go through the buildings, you guys are going to get an idea of why my keys are set up the way they are. Because most of the game, your can's on the left side of the keyboard, right? Gateway. I kept Z for Zealot, not a hard key to hit. D for Dragoon, also an easy key to hit. I made E Templar and A Dark Templar. So we're keeping all of our fingers over on that. Like, put your hand on the keyboard while you're doing this on the left side. All those keys are very easy to hit with your left hand. Totally doable. Now watch this. The Templars were originally E, right? No, they were T. They're T on the keyboard. You want E. He's a much easier key to hit. Your middle finger, for most people, is longer than the other fingers, so it naturally can rest on E. So it's easy to find that. Now watch this. And you're going to see F a lot here. Your keyboard already has a divot where the F key is, so you can actually glide your finger over that. You'll feel the little thing popping out. We use F for everything in this. Watch. Attack is F. A is armor, right? S is shields. Simple, right? We don't use any. We don't change anything on the shield battery. You can if you want to, but I don't use the R button to heal on my shield battery. I don't believe that's the best way to do it. I right click on the shield battery with the unit, so you don't have to worry about that. F for air attack, A for air armor, just like the Forge, S for the Dragoon range, right? Oh, I use yeah, we'll get to units in a second here. Hey, Parkinson89, thank you for the sub, buddy. Don't think the alert's gonna work. Don't know why. Stream Elements is broken. Thank you so much. Cannon, S and A. We don't need to change anything. Robo. F for observers. We make more observers in StarCraft than Reavers and shuttles usually, so we want F. V for Reaver, that's easy. S for shuttle. Same ideas apply here. F for shuttle speed. S for damage. I use C. I could have changed that to something else if that's easier for you, but C is also right there on the left-hand side. F for observer speed. Is that sight? Wait, which one is this? Yeah, this is S. A for sight, F for, whoa! Sorry. You guys get it. F and A. Stargate, S for scout. Not that you're ever going to make one, but you don't ever unbind stuff. I know some people unbind keys for units they don't use. Don't do that. That's a bad habit. C for carrier, A for arbiter, and I make Z for corsair because usually if I'm making lots of corsairs, I'm also making lots of zealots. Do I get the sight upgrade with observers? Sometimes you do. If it's going to be a very observer-intense game, like they're just making lurkers, they'll get sight. Over here, again, we keep them all on the left-hand side. Although, what is this? Oh, that's the scout upgrade. I didn't mess with the scout upgrades at all. But A for I guess A is scout sight range. Not that you'll ever get that. Scout movement is G. I didn't really mess with these because you're not going to make scouts. You're definitely not going to be upgrading them. C for carriers capacity. That's an important one. D is for disruption web. We probably won't have games with disruption web, but you can put it that. J is for corsair energy. I didn't even know there was an energy upgrade for that. You get it. This is a building where the upgrades, of course, do matter. F for stasis, R for recall, A for energy. Here we go with the Citadel of Adun. F. Again, F. If we could just make it F, let's make it F. Yeah, I didn't know Corsairs had an energy upgrade either. I totally forgot about that. Huh? You use F for attack? No, I do not use F for attack. A for attack. F for zealot speed. And then over here at the Temple Archives, F for Storm. That's our most important upgrade we get there. E for Hallucination, if we get that. A, because that's an upgrade we're almost always going to get, is Templar Energy. I get Z for Maelstrom. I don't think I've ever gotten the energy. I guess you could get the energy upgrade for Dark Archons. You can see this is where I didn't reset this. M also, I probably could reset that to something better, but you guys get it. Any questions so far? Okay, this is a good question in the chat for something earlier. What do you think of people that bind army to 8 through 0 and use patrol instead of attack? Is that still a thing since Remastered came out? That was an old technique. Patrol actually makes some units respond slightly quicker. But I do not recommend it, because then if you have to do something else, your units are going back and forth, right? That's annoying. How do I move back and forth on the keyboard without getting lost? I have no problem doing it, but if you want to know a trick, look at your keyboard. The key next to 0 is the minus key. You can actually take like fingernail clippers or a pen and pop that out, and you'll never slide over. You can also buy keycaps for your keyboard, or you can put a sticker on your keyboard. I know when I was in college, I just took a knife and I scratched up my 0 key so I could feel it on my keyboard. What keyboard do I use? I use a Nix membrane keyboard, but I wouldn't worry too much about gear right now. Yeah, there's a dash here. You don't really need to have a dash. And even if you have a numeric thing on the side, the number pad on the side of your keyboard, there's also a dash key there as well. So you can pop that off. There's actually 2 dash keys on your keyboard. Just use location of buttons to map keys. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Okay, any other questions before we go on? I'm going to show you guys the hotkeys for the units now. All right. So this is going to be a big one here, since we're using probes the whole time. We don't ever use move. You don't have to unbind that. We use stop a lot. You use stop quite often in StarCraft. So stop is always going to be S for all units, okay? Don't change that. There's no need. A, there's no reason to change A. It actually goes very nicely with the 1A, 2A, 3A. C is a key that a lot of people that are not high ranked don't know they need to be using all the time. You can grab like a bunch of workers, and I'll make a video about this too, but let's say half your probes have minerals and the other half don't, and you just killed off Zerlings that were attacking you and you wanted to make them go mine. You can right-click on a patch and then hit C, and the workers that have minerals just automatically go back and return it without going to the minerals. Okay, so. Oops. Keep closing this out. So B is for build, V is for advanced buildings. I keep that the same. There's no need to change that. Nexus, I keep over on the side just because I don't want to ever accidentally make a Nexus, right? I don't want that key too close to my other keys, so I actually created some space there. That's the idea behind that. I make E for pylon because it's very easy to hit B, E with my left index finger on B and my ring finger on E. Very easy to do. We do that a lot. B, A, hit A with my pinky. Again, B with my index. B, G. G is right above the B key on the keyboard. So I just pop my index and slide it up there and hit that. For people watching on YouTube, you might need to slow it down a little bit or listen to this a couple times. I know it's a lot. BY for core. I could have moved this, but honestly, you always get your core early. There's usually nothing going on where like you couldn't get your core out in time. What do you mean by, what is grid layout here? By the way, BB for battery, BC for cannon. The problem for grid layouts for some stuff is basically Putting the top row as QWE. People do that in StarCraft 2. I would not recommend that in StarCraft 1. StarCraft 1, also, if you hit the wrong hotkey, you get punished pretty hard. Also, you need your hand to glide over to the right side to make 0p, 8p, 9p. There's no way to rewire the hotkeys, like 7, 8, 9, 0. You can't just move them to the left side of the keyboard. And it's not allowed in tournaments either. So that's why. Over here for advanced structures, we do VR for Robo, VS for Stargate, VC for Citadel, VB for the robotics support bay, VF for the what is this building called? Fleet Beacon. VT for the Templar Archives, VE for the Observers, and VA for the Tribunal. Any questions for the probe there? Chat. There's already plenty of good guides for StarCraft 2, so I'm going to be focusing on StarCraft 1. I appreciate the question, though. Any questions so far, guys? Okay. Your guys are going to notice all the keys for this for general are always the same. I don't use patrol, but well, I guess actually that's true. I guess I haven't changed for patrol. I always use P for patrol. I rarely ever have stuff on patrol. Why not P for pylon? That's a good question. Because if I have to hit B and then go all the way to P, it's better if my index finger hits B and then one of my other 3 fingers goes to the left and hits the other key. It's faster input. If I have to hit B with my index finger and then jump my finger to the P, there's too much jumping. So the idea is my nexuses are 0, 8, 9, 0p, 8p, 9p. I have all the stuff I can spam out there. On the left side, I have the other stuff I can spam out there. So the only thing I think it's important that you change is hold position is E. You need to be able to hit hold position very fast in certain situations. And I just recommend everything is E, okay? You can see this with the Dragoon. Some of these units, there's nothing fancy you can do. I used R for Dark Archon. You want to be make sure R is not a key I accidentally hit, because if you have two Dark Templars, you don't want to accidentally just make an Archon. You can see with the Reaver, R is to make Scarabs. Archon has no special moves. Dark Archon, F for Maelstrom, C for Mind Control, and A for Feedback. Keep in mind, Feedback, especially as an ability you have to do very quickly. Oops, why do I keep doing this? Okay, Shuttle. F for Unload. E again for hold position like everything else, but F for Unload. Any tips on how to position your fingers when using armies beyond the 3 control group key? You just go control group 4, control group 5, control group 6. Overlap it. If you have that many units, you don't need to have your gateways hotkeyed anymore. You're in late game then, and you're no longer relying on just spamming gateways. So again, E for this. We don't do anything fancy with the Scout. F for Interceptor, easy key to hit. I have D for Disruption Web. R for Recall for the Arbiter, and then F for Stasis. So what I would recommend you guys do, change these hotkeys. Make sure you get everyone down perfectly. If you really feel like something doesn't agree with you, you change it, but the ideas are still there. You want to have this so that you're able to do what you need to do without your brain getting tangled up and tripping over itself. It's really frustrating to change your hotkeys, but you can do it. Again, Broodwar is going to be around forever. People are always going to be playing this game. I changed my hotkeys when I was in college after the game had been out for like 9 years. It was frustrating for like a few days, and then I got the hang of it, and then it was way better. Any more questions before we close out the hotkey setup? This is like lesson 0, basically. Really, it's lesson 1, but it's like this is you want to have this set up, because then for the next lessons, I'm going to be teaching you guys stuff, and we're going to be on the same page. Any thoughts on changing Patrol to Q? You could do that. Now that I'm looking at this setup, I'm thinking maybe I should move Patrol. It's not a bad idea. So I think that's a good question, Melty. Did I skip the Templar? I thought I did. I'm sorry, guys. That's really important. So F for Storm. I'm so sorry. A for Hallucinate and R for Archon. I am so sorry about that. That's very... So F we want to use for just stuff when we need to do things quickly. For instance, if you guys wanted to change Scarab to R, you could change... Or to F, you could do that, right? I'm sorry, I did not rebind my keys before remastered. I changed my hotkey layout. I started using 0, 9, 8 for Nexus. I used to not hotkey my Nexus as 3 or 4. But I'm just saying, because I see this with a lot of players, especially even good ones, even like some people who are like close to S rank or S rank that say like, oh, I can't change my hotkeys, it's too hard. It's like, you can do it. This game's hard, but that's not the hardest thing. So what you want to do now, guys, is go into single player, type in the codes, and practice the stuff I showed you and get familiarized with these keys. And then try some ladder games out. Don't be so focused on winning as it is you're trying to do the inputs you need to do. And that does it for this first lesson. We're going to have another lesson we're going to upload to YouTube again. For the people watching this on YouTube, guys, please subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to build this thing. I know there's not a lot of tools for foreigners to use. I know that stuff like this seems kind of boring and it seems really elementary. But this is actually really important stuff. You got to have your mechanics down. We're going to have a lot of lessons going over mechanics, how to manipulate stuff in the game. And you will crush people when you get the hang of it. Even if you're confused about what to do in situations, if you're able to produce and move and do things in the game, that's half the battle. And this is why the game's so hard. It's not just that it's deep strategically. I think a lot of people don't appreciate the beauty of mechanics in RTS. And that's why this is like the Dark Souls of esports games. But you guys don't have to figure this stuff out yourself. I've been playing competitively for pretty much my entire life, minus my injury with my hands and wrists, but I'm back to it. And I have access to pros who can tell me stuff and other top players. So it's not even just me that's teaching you. I've got a lot of information I can share with you guys. But do please subscribe to the channel. And that does it for our first lessons, guys. I'll see you guys in lessons 2. Lesson 2. Bye-bye. Okay, we did it. Oh, one other question. Do you need to put your pinky on control to press the number? I actually use, this is one more thing. We're not going to close the lesson out now. One more thing. I use this part of my hand for control. I have big hands. If you look at your keyboard, you can actually rest this part on your hand on control and bind stuff. I learned that from Korean pros as well. If there's any other mechanical stuff, I'll think of it. I'll put it in there. But we're trying to keep this condensed. So that should be all the basic hotkeys. Go do that. Go. Yeah, you have a 6 finger. You don't even know. One other thing. I don't personally use this that much, but I see a lot of people hit spacebar. Spacebar goes to the last action in the game. Are these hotkeys easily transferable to other races? Yes. The idea is you're just trying to be very efficient. And yes, I removed my Windows key on the bottom left. That is totally worth doing it. And that does it for our lessons, guys. I'll see you guys in lesson 2. Go practice that and get the hang of that, and then we'll come back and we'll start getting the hang of the game.